Happening now at 5, fears of fire and fumes as yet another lava vent opens in Pu'u.
A 15th fissure has broken out in an area of serious concern. Civil defense officials say it appears to be heading east toward Pu'u geothermal venture, but the state says there is no imminent danger to the area. The efforts they're taking to mitigate threats.
An explosion says dark plumes into the sky, while geologists say this may be a sign of more to come.
Steady trade winds continue across much of the state, so the air quality is good except for on the Big Island. However, lighter winds are due in soon, although fog might not be a problem for us. I'll tell you why coming up.
Plus, a remarkable road to recovery.
I had a compound fracture in my arm.
How this triathlete is coming back from a crash and the actions the city is taking to stop drifters.
In high definition, from KGMB and KHNL, this is your source for breaking news. Hawaii News Now at 5.
We are tracking 2 developing situations on the Big Island tonight. At Halima'uma'u Crater, a giant plume shot up at Hawaii Volcano's National Park. The big concern that the lava lake could drop below the water table, setting off an explosive eruption.
And at Leilani Estates and Lanipuna Gardens, another fissure opens as a line of eruptions gets closer to the Pu'u geothermal venture. That fissure caused more emergency evacuations in the area. This is on the south side of Poho'iki Road and Leilani Avenue.
Yeah, it's in the same area where a water main ruptured. It's actually less than a mile away from the Pu'u geothermal venture plant. Hawaii County Civil Defense says the eruptions have left at least 9 roads impassable.
Highway 130 between Malama Street and Kama'ili Road and Poho'iki Road between Highway 132 and Hinalo Street are closed. We've also learned that the Hawaii National Guard is beefing up patrols in Leilani Estates. Residents there are worried about looting. At least 1 person was arrested accused of burglarizing a home that had been evacuated.
We have team coverage tonight of the story, and we begin with Mileka Lincoln for the very latest on the eruptions. Mileka.
Aloha, Sean. Yes, Hawaii County Civil Defense Agency officials confirmed a 15th fissure had developed on the south side of Poho'iki Road and Leilani Avenue just after 1 o'clock this afternoon. Now, what we are waiting to hear from civil defense officials is exactly how fast that flow front is moving. And because we have not been provided with that information yet, it's unclear exactly where it is right now. But again, that fissure, we are told, was heading east, and that is in the direction of the Pu'u geothermal venture plant. And that, of course, is a major concern for residents who are aware of the 60,000 gallons of pentane which are being stored on that plant property, a highly flammable liquid that is stored on site. Some families who live within a mile of that PGV property radius say they aren't taking any chances and have volunteered to evacuate because of rising concerns about their safety, which they say has been escalated by a lack of information.
That's scary. When everybody that you talk to who knows someone who works at PGV says they're not being told anything. Everything seems to be going on under the cover of secrecy, a lack of clarity. Even on PGV's website this morning, there's no update at all. They don't even acknowledge what's going on.
Now, we were at Highway 130 and Pahoa-Kapoho Road when we saw a truck which sources tell us was transporting pentane away from the PGV property this afternoon. Civil Defense Administrator Talmadge Magno says crews would be relocating 12,000 gallons of pentane to Shipman Industrial in Kea'au today. But we have heard from sources who say at this point approximately 30,000 gallons of pentane have already been moved off the site, and that the remaining pentane would be evacuated in the next 10 to 12 hours. I also spoke with hazmat sources who say pentane's chemical characteristics are rather similar to gasoline, including their flammable range. From a fire standpoint, that means the hazards would be similar in terms of how gasoline burns. Pentane's potential threat, I'm told, would be dependent on what kind of container it's being stored in. If it can vent and burn, then even if crews weren't able to move it from the PGV site before the lava flow reaches it, it would simply create, I'm told, a big fireball if ignited, not an explosion similar to a bomb. And again, that's because I'm told it has the same chemical composition as gasoline. Now, I'm also cautioned that this would be a different story if for some reason the pentane is being stored in a pressurized container. Hazmat experts say a reference they're using to determine the potential threat is the DOT's emergency response guide. Now, neither pentane nor gasoline have requirements within that response guide that mandate an evacuation or response zone. In other words, the hazard is not as severe as other chemicals, meaning there is not a required isolation zone. However, in an abundance of caution, Hawaii County Civil Defense Administrator Magno says they are telling folks that that radius is going to be just outside of the 1 mile that they can tell people they believe is safe. Of course, this situation is continuing to develop, and we will bring you the very latest as it does. Reporting live here in Pahoa, Mileka Lincoln, Hawaii News Now.
All right, thank you very much, Mileka. And the latest vent to open sent families fleeing from the area. Take a look at this video from a Lani Puna Gardens resident who had to pack up their belongings and leave their home behind. They were ordered to evacuate as sulfur dioxide filled the air.
First we heard the siren, then they personally came to each house and said evacuate, evacuate, evacuate.
The street was alive with emergency vehicles, and we were told nobody was being let in. That's it.
Officials are closely monitoring the air quality in that area, but families are still waiting and watching for their next opportunity to return home.
Meantime, as Mileka mentioned earlier, efforts are underway to quickly remove pentane gas from the Puna Geothermal Venture Power Plant. The movement of the pentane gas is something state officials wanted days ago. So what took so long? Lynn Kawano was at a press conference with the governor about that issue. Lynn.
Steph, it was clear Governor David Ige was not happy with the slow response from Puna Geothermal Venture. The governor announced he signed a supplemental emergency proclamation, which allows him to take action regarding private facilities like PGV. He says they want to work with PGV, but the removal of pentane gas should have been done last week.
Thursday and Friday of last week, we had already identified that as an issue and had made a request that they move it off-site as soon as possible.
And what was the reaction you got when you requested that right away?
They said they would get on it, and it's still on the site, and that's why I'm taking this action today.
A response team has been activated, including Big Island Mayor Harry Kim and PGV representatives. The state is also getting input from geothermal experts on the mainland. The state says there is no immediate danger right now, but the movement of the pentane gas has been expedited and should be off-site by tomorrow. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Okay, thank you very much, Lynn. Well, geologists warned that there could be explosive eruptions at Hawaii Ma'u crater at Kilauea.
That's after an explosion happened this morning, sending massive plumes of dark ash into the air. Mahea Lani Richardson joins us live at the Hawaii Volcano's National Park with the details. Mahea.
Aloha, Steph and Sean. Yes, I'm here at the overlook of Hawaii Ma'u crater, and it is safe, according to officials. They say there's no danger here, and that's why many areas of the park are still open. Now, behind me, you see a white plume right behind me, and it's been going strong all day today. This has been pretty normal. It's going strong. But earlier today, something really dramatic happened. Now, USGS says at 8:25 this morning, there were some rocks that fell into the lava lake below, and that caused a gas explosion, and then large plumes of dark steam and gas and dust went up into the air, maybe more than 1,000 feet. Measurements haven't been taken yet, but it was really, really quite a sight. Let's hear what some of the officials had to say.
There's a gas explosion basically when the rocks hit the lava lake, and it's shooting up into this dramatic ash cloud. That's what we saw at 8:30 this morning and a couple other times since then. So it's exciting. It's open.
The explosion this morning was gases from the lava being released and pushing the ash and dust upward. If the lava lake drops below the water table and water mixes with the lava, then we get a steam explosion, and it's just can be orders of magnitude larger.
It's more than we've ever seen. I've been coming up here for, I don't know, decades off and on, and there's never been this kind of action, so it just really feels like something's about to happen.
Again, quite a sight for all of the visitors here. Now, so far, the lava lake has dropped more than 700 feet. And again, if it mixes with the water, it'll cause that violent eruption. But geologists say they don't know when a steam eruption could occur, but they are monitoring it. This was one of the largest events since 2008, and there hasn't been a steam eruption, a violent steam eruption, since the 1920s. Now, again, I'm here at the overlook of Hawaii Ma'u crater. It is open to visitors. The Park Service says if there is any indication of a steam eruption, one of those bigger, more violent eruptions, they will shut down the park ahead of time. But for now, it is open, and again, it is quite a sight. I'm reporting live from Hawaii Ma'u crater. Mahealani Richardson, Hawaii News Now.
All right, thanks, Mahea. Let's find out more about what causes those explosions at Hawaii Ma'u.
Yeah, Guy Hauke shows us what happens when the lava lake gets too low, Guy.
Well, it's amazing to see, but obviously could be very dangerous. Up until all the recent activity, Kilauea's lava lake had been bubbling very, very quietly. But with the lava draining out into the East Rift Zone, the magma column feeding the lava lake has dropped, and that likely helped to form a blockage with the cooling, receding lava, and that allowed pressure to build. And today, with the rock fall breaking that blockage, you get that large plume that happened. But if the magma column drops below the water table, then you can get an even more explosive type of clearance. Think of dropping some water onto a frying pan. But this time, you're talking about rocks, maybe giant boulders, along with steam and ash being expelled. Now, the scientists just aren't sure when or if it will ever happen again. So stay tuned. Here's what else is going on. The prevailing trade winds continue to push the volcanic emissions to the south and southwest of those eruption zones. The heaviest concentration of the sulfur dioxide is this in red. So it's still a dangerous situation for those communities downwind of the eruptions. Now, the rest of the state is actually looking pretty good. The fog plume expected to stay to our south. Even as the winds lighten up tomorrow, the southerly flow is not expected to be strong enough to bring up the fog. However, locally produced haze is likely. So even though the air quality will be worse tomorrow and on Friday, we really aren't expecting fog. The cleaner air is due back on Saturday as the trade winds pick up again. I'll have the rest of the forecast in a couple of minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Guy. And you can go to HawaiiNewsNow.com for more details on the ongoing Kilauea eruption. That's also where you'll find extended interviews along with videos and a slideshow of the lava.
And make sure to stay with us throughout the night on KGMB, KHNL, and K5 for new information on the eruption.
My number one goal is to be able to walk again.
Hit by a speeding car on Tantalus, a Hawaii triathlete shares her painful road to recovery as lawmakers strengthen a law to crack down on reckless drivers.
Also ahead at 5, it's been a rough few weeks for the Hokulea. The latest on those critical repairs and where she's headed.
It's 5:17, and here's how we take it.
Good morning. We told you Kauai Emergency Management had been aiding flooded residents from the Hanalei Colony Resort. Well, this morning they opened a second office in the old Hanalei Courthouse. They'll be there to help out between 9 and 11:30. Kauai Mayor Bernard Carvalho is on Oahu this morning to accept $42,000 worth of household supplies from the Iron Workers Union. The supplies will be shipped by Young Brothers. Ceremony at 11 at the Waipio Costco. EPA settles a large capacity cesspool issue with NF Kawakami Store, property owner of Kauai's Koloa Big Safe Supermarket. The owner will close the cesspool and pay a civil penalty of $110K. Hawaii renews its contract with Prudential Retirement to oversee its State of Hawaii Deferred Compensation Plan, aka the Island Savings Plan. $2.4 billion in retirement assets, 28,000 members. Gentry Home CEO Bob Brandt is retiring. The new CEO of the D.R. Horton local division is Quentin Machida. Gentry has built 13,000 homes statewide, 8,000 just in Ewa. Hawaii State Federal Credit Union hires a financial advisor to do investment counseling. Lloyd Sugano previously worked for First Hawaiian, American Express, and Allstate. The Queen Kapiolani Hotel hires Joy Shinobu Tomita as marketing director. She came from The Modern and earlier worked for Hale Kulani.
Sounds good. Thanks, Howard. It's 5:18 right now. Let's check it with Dan.
Yeah, the 7-day forecast. We'll pop that on the screen there, and you can see for the next couple of days, light and variable winds. We're going to see some afternoon showers pop up in the interior sections. The haze, now we talked about that the last couple of days, and I know there's increased concern about the fog as the winds move to light and variable, that it might move up the island chain. They're saying at the National Weather Service that the southeast flow, which is what moves it our direction, is not going to be as strong, as defined as was thought. So the fogginess, the haze, will probably be not as great as we had anticipated. Trade winds should return just in time for us as the weekend gets here, and we should have some pretty nice weather. That's a beautiful shot of the Pu'u sunset over on Maui. Thank you, Asa Ellison, for always sharing your talents with us here on Hawaii News Now Sunrise. All right, let's check on the traffic. Here's Lacey Denise.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Let's take a look at our drive time. It's about 55 minutes from Waianae to downtown, 35 out of Mililani, 35-minute commute from Makakilo. We are building through Kunia on the H1 freeway. You do pick up before the H1, H2 merge. So not much volume out of Central Oahu. We're clear on all routes there. However, out of Ewa Beach, slowing on Fort Weaver right after Kolowaka. Town spots breezing in past Middle Street and Moanalua Freeway, that is clear. However, on the H1 freeway, we've got that buildup once more getting off that Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam and Nimitz off-ramp. You can see on the right-hand side there. Now that is backing up your commute on the H1 townbound right near the stadium. So you may want to stay with Moanalua Freeway. Again, a much better route for you. Traveling in from the east side, clear from Hawaii Kai. A little slick to the windward side, but an easy commute to downtown. That's the latest on your traffic. You're watching Sunrise on Hawaii News Now. We'll take a quick break. Be back with more of today's top stories.
Welcome and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. During the Q&A session, if you'd like to ask a question, you may press star 1 on your phone. Today's call is being recorded. If you have any objections, please disconnect at this time. Now I'd like to turn the call over to Ms. Leslie Gordon. You may begin.
Hello, thank you, and thank you all for calling in and participating today. Today is the second in what we hope to be daily briefings about the current conditions and situation at Kilauea Volcano. The code, the access phone number and the code that you use today is the same one that will be good tomorrow for you to check in. Yesterday, because it was the first of this series of briefings, we gave you a full chronology and kind of an update for what's happened so far. We will not do that today. We will have, within the hour, a chronology posted on the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory website. So if you want any past history, please check online. Today's briefing will just deal with the last 24 hours, and we have a couple of speakers. I will introduce them and spell their names as we go along. Our first speaker is Tina Neal. That's Christina, or Tina, T-I-N-A, Neal, N-E-A-L. She is the scientist in charge of the USGS Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. Tina.
Morning, everyone. I will start with just an update on what's happening in different parts of the volcano and what's happening in terms of the response from HVO's perspective. The lower east rift zone of Kilauea, where we have had intermittent active lava and spatter emissions the past number of days, last night was fairly quiet. There was no active eruption of lava or spatter. However, there still is vigorous degassing occurring, so very high levels of sulfur dioxide gas exist in the immediate vicinity of the fissures and downwind. That remains an important hazard of concern. We are also continuing to see ongoing earthquake activity and deformation of the ground that suggests that magma is still moving down rift from beneath the Leilani Estates area further into the lower east rift zone. As we've been saying since the beginning of this event down there, we anticipate additional outbreaks of lava. They could be within the zone that has already been affected, or they could be along other portions of the rift zone further to the east or to the west. We have ground crews in the area working with local response authorities to track activity and look for evidence of new outbreaks that would guide civil defense decisions about further public alerts and evacuations. Activity at the Pu'u vent along the Middle East Rift Zone is fairly nominal. There may have been a gas burst or rockfall overnight, but we're not too concerned about activity ongoing at that location along the Middle East Rift Zone. Up at the summit of Kilauea Volcano, where HVO sits, continue to see deflationary tilt, which is consistent with the reduction of the level of the lava column within the overlook vent. The tilt meters are showing this deflation. We can no longer see the lava lake from the edge of the crater when we sent people down there this morning. But all of this is consistent with continued lowering of the lake. The last time we were able to make a measurement of the lake level, it was down about more than 900 feet on May 8th. Because of the dropping lava lake level, we are continuing to get intermittent rock falls from the walls of this steep, narrow conduit, and these rock falls impacting the surface of the lava column are creating ash emissions, which intermittently boil up out of the vent, off several thousand feet into the atmosphere, and drift downwind. We have no evidence yet of any sort of energetic explosive activity that would indicate interaction of the lava column with the water table. As we discussed yesterday, is one of the concerns in the coming weeks as the lava column, if it continues to decline in elevation. Seismicity also remains elevated in the summit region, likely due to ongoing deflation and structural readjustment of the summit as the summit deflates. I want to emphasize that USGS, HVO, and assistance from other volcano observatories in the United States are monitoring the situation 24/7, close coordination with the National Park Service, Hawaii County Civil Defense, and other authorities. We will maintain field crews on site in the lower East Rift Zone and the Leilani Estates area as long as activity is ongoing or possible, and those crews are looking for evidence of new activity or resumed activity.
Our guidance to the public in terms of what is going on is to remain aware of changing conditions and to take advantage of many resources we're posting on our website and other places about preparing for the possibility of volcanic ashfall and dealing with VOG, or volcanic air pollution, which will be exacerbated by the high releases of sulfur dioxide from the lower East Rift Zone eruption. I will stop there. Leslie.
Thank you, Tina. Is Tal on the line as a speaker? I don't think so. Our second speaker will be Jessica Farrakane. Jessica is the Public Affairs Officer with Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. I'll spell her name for you. It's Jessica, Jessica. Last name Farrakane, Ferracane. So Jessica Farrakane with Hawaii Volcanoes National Park.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Aloha. So the message we put out yesterday in the media advisory remains the same. Most of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park will be closed Friday, tomorrow, and that is in anticipation of the possibility of an explosive steam event here at the summit of Kilauea. The part of the park that will remain open will be the Kahuku unit, and that is in the southwestern part of the island. This is a 116,000-acre part of the park that is in Ka'u, near the 70-mile marker, for those of you who know. So not all of the park is closed, but the main part of the park near Kilauea, all of that will be closed, including Volcano House and Kilauea Military Camp, the post office, etc. It is complete closure up here in the summit area of Kilauea. What else? So the park, it closes tonight at 10 o'clock. That's our recent hour structure, and we will be closing at 10 o'clock tonight. So after that, nobody will be let in. The other things, we do not know when we'll reopen. It really depends on what is going on at Kilauea. And the park is based on the information that the scientists have been providing, our key message out there that we are not expecting this to be a life-threatening event unless you're in a closed area, so stay out of the park. We are expecting this to be more of, I believe Don Swanson called it, a nuisance event. So we will provide more information as it becomes available.
Thank you, Jessica.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. One more thing for our local media here on Hawaii Island. There's been numerous calls about what will volcano residents do who have a P.O. box here in the national park. The post office will deliver that mail to the Volcano Village post office, so you can get your mail in Volcano Village. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for the park update, Jessica. In case I neglected, as your moderator, I neglected to introduce myself. My name is Leslie Gordon. I work for the U.S. Geological Survey. Our third speaker, I don't believe was able to make it. Is there anyone on the line as Tal or someone else from Civil Defense on the line? They were not able to meet with us, but they did issue an alert, and we can read part of that alert to you right now, and also refer you to the Hawaii County Civil Defense website. They have active alerts that are always online, and please do keep in touch with those. In the meantime, in the absence of an actual speaker from Civil Defense, Janet Babb, who is a geologist at the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory, will read their alert for a quick summary.
Good morning, John. I checked with Civil Defense this morning, and Tal was not certain if he could make it. So I would encourage you to go to the county website for the full report. But when I spoke with the PIO there, they said the most important message for overnight was that PGV, or the Puna Geothermal Venture, has completed the removal of all pentane gas offsite as of 3:15 a.m. this morning to Shipman Industrial Park. And I think she said that was the most key message to share with you this morning. And please go to the website for all the other details. Thank you.
Thanks, Janet. And I just want to reiterate, if you're going to quote that, please quote the Hawaii County Civil Defense. We were simply reading their alert. We can open the lines now to take some questions from everybody. I have some requests. First of all, there will be two speakers, Jessica Farrakane with the Parks and Tina Neal are available to answer any questions. We also have with us Kyle Anderson, who is a geophysicist with, with the U.S. Geological Survey, and he is available to answer questions as well. I'm sorry that we cannot answer any questions that properly should go to County Civil Defense. Excuse me. As the operator queues you up for questions, please ask one question at a time and not multiple questions, only so that we can get more people on and able to answer their questions within our allotted time. So, Ted, do you want to open the lines up for questions, please?
Yes, the phone lines are now open for questions. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1 and record your name and affiliation. If you'd like to withdraw your question, press *2. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for us?
Yes, the first question in the queue is from Peter, who's an independent science video producer. Your line is now open.
Yes, I'm just curious, do you have any idea of how much longer this increased activity in the East Rift Zone can continue? I mean, is this something weeks, months, possibly, even longer?
Yes, I identify myself. This is Tina Neal from HVO. We certainly don't know exactly how long it will last, but the historical precedents, most recently the 1955 and 1960 eruptions in that similar area, lasted between 36 and 88 days. So that gives you a sense of the bounds of what is plausible.
Thank you. And do you think there's any chance there's going to be any of that dramatic lava fountaining that went on in 1984?
We'll go ahead and answer that, but I want to repeat, please, for each person to stick to one question, at least for the first round, so more people can get a chance to ask. Gina, do you want to answer that question?
The question was about whether we could see some dramatic higher lava fountaining than we have seen to date, and the answer is yes, that is possible. If fresh, gassier, hotter magma arrives at the surface during this eruption, we would expect higher lava fountaining.
Thank you, Tina. I think we're ready for a second question.
Next question is from Steve Gorman with Reuters News. Your line is now open.
Hi, thanks for taking the call. I wanted to ask more about, Dr. Neal mentioned this very tall, I guess, plume or cloud of ash emissions that are being lofted from the Kilauea summit crater right now after some rock falls went into the lava lake at the bottom. And I just want to know if that's continuing, and when it happened, and is that have any consequences for either air traffic or people or anything like that? Or
yes, thank you. These rockfall events and emissions of ash right now are intermittent. They're not continuous. I have a view of these directly outside my window, and when I look away from my computer, I can watch these things happen. And right now, the ash is only rising a few thousand feet, if that, into the atmosphere and drifting generally to the southwest with the trade winds, where there's some ash fallout in the near vent region a couple of miles downwind. So at this point, these are relatively weak ash emissions, and they are formed by a combination of the elutriate or fine particles that ascend from the rock falls themselves, but also likely a contribution from agitation and explosion at the top of the lava column that's more than 900 feet below. As this rockfall debris impacts that lava column, it causes a response, and some of that debris rises up the steep pipe, also to add to this ash emission. At this point, we've heard of no detrimental effects downwind because they're still pretty small volume, but they can be larger. Yesterday morning, we saw a more vigorous one that dropped a couple of millimeters of ash on some of our instrumentation downwind, and of course, covered solar panels and some of our upward-looking spectrometers. So there is an impact on some of our monitoring equipment.
The next question in the queue is from Tom Callis with Hawaii Tribune Herald. Your line is now open.
Yes, hi, thank you. Have there been any reports of ash falling on communities downwind, and can you recap some of the potential health effects if there is more of an explosive eruption at the summit in terms of more ash spreading around the island?
Sure. Tina Neal again. To my knowledge, we've received no reports of ashfall on communities. However, we are not actively canvassing for reports, so there may be some out there. Yesterday morning's event may have dropped a very small amount of ash on the general Pahala area, but we've not heard about it. If ash emissions increase in intensity, or if the wind direction shifts and we start to get ashfall here around the summit area or in the fringing community of Volcano, I'm certain we'll hear about that, and of course we'll know about that here at HVO. Health effects and impacts of concern. At this level of emission, ash is primarily a nuisance and not a grave threat to life. Ashfall can be irritating to the eyes, and in fact, eye protection if you're in ashfall is advised. It's a respiratory irritant, and especially people with any kind of respiratory sensitivity should minimize exposure to ash. The ash itself is not toxic, and while it will potentially interfere with the operation of water systems, the fact that ash falls into the water is not immediately a health concern. There's a great deal more information about the potential health impacts of ash and how to mitigate those impacts available on the USGS website about volcanic ash. I don't have that URL, but a simple Google search of USGS and ash will take you, and volcanic ash will take you to that location for information. And just in case folks aren't aware, volcanic ash is a pulverized rock, and it is tiny rock particles. That's what we're concerned about here. Thank you.
The next question in the queue is from Jennifer Kelleher with the Associated Press. Your line is now open.
At the park. Is there anything specific that is prompting, closure starting Friday if the likelihood of a blast isn't, for a few more days or a week? Is it because of the wind conditions, or is this just sort of out of an abundance of caution?
Hi, this is Jessica Farrakhan. Hi, Jennifer. The winds are predicted to come from the south, and could as Tina put, these weak ash events continue. But if the winds were blowing that ash from the south, that would drift all over the people at Jagger. So that's part of the reason. But but from what we've gathered from the scientific input, there's no way to know for certain when this event, if it occurs, will occur. We want to keep people safe. This won't be a life-threatening event in most cases if people are not in the vicinity, and we want to get people out of the vicinity of this potential explosive eruption.
The next question is from Katie Marar from Pacific Business News. Your line is now open.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. So with this current activity, are you seeing it to have any implications for the Helena fault system in terms of possible, major earthquakes and subsidence?
Wes, can you jump in on that?
Yeah, this is Weston Thielen. I am with the USGS Volcano Science Center. The subsidence in the crater will not affect those systems down on the Helena Poly. We have good GPS coverage across the Helena and Joliet Polys, and they are not showing any discontinuity across them, nor do we expect there to be from the deflation event that's going on in the summit right now. Further, we don't expect any large earthquakes on that structure to arise from this deflation. That is not to say that there won't be earthquakes that are strong enough to be felt in the immediate area of volcano, and a little further out, we may expect about magnitude 3, maybe even magnitude 4 earthquakes to occur as part of this deflation plays out, and those would certainly be felt as far south as Pahala and as far north as Hilo.
The next question in the queue is from Thomas Frattanardo from 90.3 FM. Your line is now open.
Yes, I just had a question about the magma lake or the storage underneath the volcano. Is there any general estimation of how far or how long it takes for that system to reload itself after these eruptions?
Yeah, this is Kyle Anderson with the USGS. So what we believe is happening is the lava lake right now is draining down into the shallower of what may be more than one magma storage region underneath the summit of Kilauea. The depth of that is not terribly well resolved, but it's probably in the range of a mile or two down. The magma supply is rising up and passing through that reservoir and then going down through the east drift zone. If the question, I didn't actually catch the end of it. Are you wondering about re-inflation after the end of this event? Sorry, can the speaker just clarify the end of that question? Okay. So I guess I can just clarify generally what's happening, and that is the lake is dropping, that magma is going down into the reservoir. Where the ultimate destination of the magma is right now is a good question. Generally speaking, the magma from the summit goes down through the east drift zone and feeds the eruption site. The active eruption right now down in Puna is quite a ways from the summit. We've also had this magnitude 6.9 earthquake, and that may have opened up a fair amount of storage space in the rift. So we're not exactly sure right now the relationship between the magma that's draining the summit and the magma that's actually erupting down in Puna. Maybe that the magma that's leaving the summit is going into storage space. But the bottom line is that it is leaving the summit rather rapidly through that summit storage system.
The next question in the queue is from Allison Blair with Hawaii News Now. Your line is now open.
Hi, EMA sent out a message warning folks not to use the water in their catchment systems due to acid rain. Can you talk about the dangers of potentially using that water?
I'm sorry, I'm not aware of any official message that went out with that guidance.
Okay, it was on Twitter. It's on Twitter currently.
Well, again, I would encourage all media to vet and verify sources of information prior to rebroadcasting. There are potential acid contributions to the water system because as these ash emissions occur and future bursts from the lava lake conduit system, there will be sulfur dioxide released. And as the communities in the summit area have been dealing with for the last 10 years, acid rain is one consequence of adding sulfur dioxide to the atmosphere. So the communities in this region already are dealing with acid rain. And again, that guidance about how to deal with that is out there on the internet at official sites. But at this time, I would say that the hazard of additional acidic rain, while it's elevated, is not something that people up here don't know how to deal with.
The next question in the queue is from Chris Leonard with KWXX. Your line is now open.
Hi, there's been a number of earthquakes east of Leilani. I'm wondering if that's, in your opinion, if that's indicative of additional magma movement into that area, and as a result, what the potential is for perhaps more eruptive activity heading east of Leilani or down Pu'u Road area.
Right, so indeed we are seeing earthquakes. They are clustering right now near the intersection of Highway 132 and Nani Farms Road. That evidence, in concert with the GPS evidence from a station in the area, gives us pretty good confidence that magma is, in fact, has moved down rift from where it was pooled under Leilani Estates, and at least part of what was there under Leilani Estates has moved at least as far down as Nani Farms Road. The implications for that are obviously that there is an increased likelihood for fishing above the area that has been intruded, but we have very little constraint on the exact timing of that right now. We also don't really have a good understanding of exactly how far this may go down ripped or if it may stall out where it is now.
Thank you.
I just want to remind people the person answering that question was Wes Thielen, Thelen, with the U.S. Geological Survey. Thanks, Wes.
The next question in the queue is from Jeannie Cooper with the San Francisco Chronicle. Your line is now open.
Hi, I think this question is probably for Jessica Farrakane. It has to do with park employees and also campers and backpackers who might be in the area. I'm just wondering, what is the mechanism for getting people out of the park who might be in the back regions up Mauna Loa, and also how are the park employees going to be taken care of during this period of extended unemployment? Sorry.
Hi, Jeannie. Good morning. So as far as the backpackers that go into the backcountry are required to have a permit, and on that permit we have contact information for them plus other people to reach if we're unable to reach them. So we're in the process now, and I don't have the exact numbers of letting backpackers know that they need to start making their way out of the backcountry to be out by 10. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Scratch all of that. The backcountry is not open. It has been closed since the 6.9 earthquake. So we've been in a partial opening. Had we been open, that's what we would have done. But no, there's nobody in the backcountry right now. We have a very limited opening since Sunday when we reopened after the earthquake. And then as far as employees go, we had a staff meeting yesterday at 4 o'clock and informed everybody that they come into work today as normal. And for those of us who can telework, pack up, get ready to go after their normal ending time today. But we are, getting ready to get people out. This again, many of our employees live right here in the Volcano Village and in the Puna and the Pu'u districts. Again, this is not being considered a life-threatening event. As long as nobody's in a closed area, this is more of a nuisance event, and so that's the impact we're looking at now. We do have employees, however, that are under considerable stress, and we have the Employee Assistance Program. That's a federal program for DOI employees to assist them with any kind of counseling that they might need. So we have those mechanisms in place. That was Jessica Farrakane from the National Park Service speaking.
The next question in the queue is from Justin. And Justin, please announce your affiliation. It did not record. Thank you. And Justin, if you're there, your line is open.
The question I'd like to know is what type of technology has been deployed? Maybe something that the scientists are excited about, or something as far as like 4K digital cameras around Halemaumau, or what things are scientists excited about what they have on the ground that they've maybe never had before?
Justin, what is your affiliation, please?
The radio station, The Wave at 92 FM in Hilo.
Thank you. I think that question is probably best answered by Tina Neal or Kyle Anderson. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Yeah, this is Kyle Anderson at USGS. There are actually a number of really new techniques that we're excited about. I'll just highlight one here today. As I think many of you are aware, as the lava lake has drained further and further from site, it is actually, so what we measure the distance to the lake surface with laser rangefinders. And as it gets further and further down, those laser rangefinders don't work anymore. However, we have a technique called structure from motion. So what our scientists have done is they take a thermal camera that's sensitive to heat, the ground surface, and fly around the summit in a helicopter. From the series of images that they take, they can actually build a three-dimensional model of the vent. That's actually really fantastic. We have a very nice three-dimensional model of Kilauea's conduit right now. And that also allows us to say something about the depth of the lava surface, even though we can't get it with the laser rangefinders. So that, in fact, our most recent measurement, as Tina mentioned earlier, on May 8th, came from that technique. So that's one that I am quite excited about, although there are certainly many others to go. Thank you.
Wes, do you want to add any kind of response to that from other geophysical perspectives?
I think for us seismologists, the most exciting thing is really the application of new techniques to the sets that have been forming out there that have been recording for the past several years. And so that's something that we've been really interested in, is just using some of these new techniques that have come up the past several years and goes to the situation that we have right now. I'll further Kyle's suggestion with another thing that I find really fascinating, and that is the use of thermal cameras to build a mosaic of the fissure system. I think that's a really interesting application of thermal imagery, and in this case, not to build a thermal model, but to give us a really good sense of what the dimensions of the fissures are and the orientation of those fissures.
Thanks, Wes. And I would like to just jump in and say that another unbelievably interesting and fascinating monitoring technique that's bearing great fruit right now is the use of INSAR, and that is space-based radar data. A number of our cooperators and collaborators from NASA and other agencies are sharing INSAR, interferometric synthetic aperture radar results that show remarkable clarity in the deformation that occurred volcano-wide during this event that really began on April 30th with the collapse of Pu'u. And you can find some of those images, those INSAR images, on our website. They basically show the areas of significant deflation at the volcano and also areas that inflate as magma moves through the system. So we also have, as you mentioned, 4K cameras that have been applied down at the fissure eruptions, trying to capture the eruption of these pyroclasts and better understand the physical properties of magma as it's floating out of the ground. In total, there are an extraordinary number of techniques that we and others are applying to this eruption, primarily to monitor and track the activity and provide interpretive guidance to the emergency response authorities to help keep people safe. That's our number one mission. But in the background, we're also collecting an enormous amount of data that will vastly improve our understanding of how this volcano works, how the structure is put together, and how big events really play out in the eruptive history and associated hazards of Kilauea volcano. Yes, yeah, that's all. I'm sorry, Janet Babb.
This is Janet Babb at the USGS Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. I just wanted to mention that the thermal map that Wes mentioned and the 3D model that Kyle mentioned are posted on our website. So if you go to our multimedia page or our map page for Kilauea, you will see these things they've just spoken about.
The next question in the queue is from Michael Phillips with Weather Boy Weather. Your line is now open.
Yeah, building onto the technology question, yesterday you quantified the number of USGS resources in the area at about 28 people. Could you quantify the amount of equipment out in the field that's working to record and measure things? And can you describe some of that technology out there? Are there remote sensors? Are these things that the geologists are carrying? And then has there been any issue of vandalism or theft of any devices in the field?
This is Tina Neal. I'll begin to address that, and Wes and Kyle and Janet can jump in. We currently have more than 200 different sensors deployed around the Big Island, and this includes a whole variety of sensor types, from seismometers to GPS, to tilt meters, web cameras, gas sensors, and all of these things are working in concert to provide a synoptic view of activity across the island, all the volcanoes, and particularly, of course, here at the summit of Kilauea and the active eruption, the Rift Zone. I am unaware of any concerns about vandalism or tampering with any of our equipment at this time. We are trying to deploy additional equipment in the area of concern, especially in the lower East Rift Zone, to help us track and quantify ongoing activity and changes. And in fact, the migration of the intrusion that Wes spoke about earlier has been exceptionally well captured because we were able to rapidly deploy new seismometers and GPS in the region. Great testimony to our technical crew that was able to get out there quickly. We are dealing with ongoing impacts of ashfall here in the Summit region, which is hampering some of our monitoring equipment. We have lost some of our telemetry down to the crater rim because likely of the combination of ashfall and the shaking from yesterday morning's earthquake. Our upward-looking gas array that's tracking the Kilauea Summit plume has been compromised because of ashfall on top of the spectrometer windows. So we are dealing with some impacts to our monitoring network, but we have a very talented and deep bench that will address these things as best we can.
The next question is from Steve Gorman with Reuters News. Your line is now open.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to ask you about, so this geothermal plant is no longer poses a kind of like a chemical, hazardous chemical threat. Now they've moved this, I think it's called the pentane gas, out of the site. But I guess that also means the plant itself has been effectively shut down. It's no longer in operation, and I would assume it still is in the potential path, or still in potential harm's way. With this plant no longer being in operation, as I assume it's not, what does that mean in terms of the region's power supplies? Is it causing any kind of problem for providing needed energy for residents and companies in the region?
This is Tina Neal. I'm afraid we can't answer that question. That would probably be best directed to the Hawaii Electric Light Company and/or Civil Defense.
The next question is from Tom Callis with Hawaii Tribune Herald. Your line is now open.
Yes, thank you. I just want to ask about if there have been any more steam cracks seen away from Leilani today.
As of 8 o'clock this morning, my understanding was that there were steaming cracks to the west of Highway 130. Been noted earlier in the past 24 hours, but no additional steaming cracks to the east beyond the PGV area, as I understand it.
The next question is from Peter Matulovich, independent producer. Your line is now open.
Thanks again for taking my question. You mentioned Leilani, and I think there were like 36 homes that were destroyed the last time I checked, or something like that. Are there further neighborhoods and more homes that are possibly at risk?
This is Leslie Gordon. I think that is a question, again, that we can't answer very well, and Hawaii County Civil Defense can perhaps answer that question. I think you're right that as of yesterday, Civil Defense said that there were 36 structures destroyed, and of those 36 structures, I think about 26 of them were people's homes. But any more information since yesterday, I think you should call the County Civil Defense folks.
Yes, Tina Neal again. Their most recent alert this morning, I think, had the same number of homes destroyed that Leslie mentioned. I would like to add, however, that what the message we're trying to convey is that there is the potential for additional outbreaks along other parts of the lower East Rift Zone, further downrift or generally to the east, or uprift to the west of the area that has already been impacted. And there are other communities potentially at risk should outbreaks occur and larger volumes of lava move away from the vents. So it's not just Leilani Estates that in the long term we are collectively concerned about. There are other communities, other residential neighborhoods that could, depending on the evolution of activity, be in harm's way. What it's worth. Sorry.
Go ahead with questions.
The next question is from Thomas Ratanaga with 90.3 FM. Your line is now open.
My question was answered. Thank you.
Next is from Tom Callis with Hawaii Tribune Herald. Your line is now open.
Yeah, just going back to the possibility of a larger eruption at the summit from water intrusion, what can people in Volcano expect or other parts of the island, such as Pu'u, Hilo, or Puna?
Currently, the best guide to what we might anticipate should groundwater become involved and produce steam-driven blasts from the Holly Mountain area, it is that in the very near vent area, within a half a mile or maybe a little more, we could see large blocks, dense blocks, we call them ballistics, fell during these explosions. These could be potentially life-threatening, and therefore, as Jessica has emphasized, currently a closed area and will remain a closed area. Beyond that, for another mile or two, the ground may be showered with larger fragments, pebble pea-size kinds of tephra, we call it, that, again, is not life-threatening. And then beyond that radius, depending on the height of the ash column that is associated with these events and wind directions at the time, there could be ash fall. And ash is technically defined as particles smaller than about 2 millimeters across. So these are smaller particles that, again, do not pose a life-threatening situation. They're a nuisance, and they can have impacts on infrastructure in a variety of ways. But we expect an individual explosion to not produce more than a couple of millimeters of ashfall on the nearby communities. I will share that in 1924, when this activity happened, ash fell as far as the Pu'u district to the southwest and north of Hilo. So there are possibly quite wide ashfall impacts on the Big Island.
And this is Janet Babb. I would just like to add that at a meeting last night, Don Swanson showed some graphics about the distribution of material that could be erupted. The presentations last night were recorded. They're available on Big On Video News as well as Naleo TV. So if you want to see those slides, I would refer you to those sources.
Tom, hi, this is Jessica Farrakhan. You asked earlier, too, if there was any ash that was noticeable in Pahala, Ka'u yesterday, and I received a text just now from a work colleague who lives in Pahala. They did have a fine dusting, noticeable ash layer on their newly washed cars this morning, so I just wanted to give you that information as well.
And I'm showing no further questions at this time.
All right, thank you very much. If there are no further questions, I just have a couple of reminders of resources for reporters before we say goodbye. First of all, always check the most up-to-date information on websites. That's the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory website, the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park website, and the Hawaii County Civil Defense website. Those URLs and links are in the media advisory that was sent to everybody last night, and I think it was just sent out again during this call, so please check it. Another link that is in that email that was just sent out during this call is, in addition to these 11 a.m. telephone briefings, we are trying to record a daily video update, just a minute update. That also is posted online, and the link is in the email you received. So it's available for reporters. It's all in the public domain. If you want to capture sound bites, video clips, please do so. We only ask that you give us credit for it. If you, for some reason, are not on our mailing list and you didn't receive this, please contact me, Leslie Gordon. My email is lgordon@usgs.gov. Other than that, if there's no more questions, I'll just say goodbye until tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. We'll do another update.
This concludes today's call. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.
early. That night, 300-foot tall lava fountain shot out of a 3,000-foot fissure just northwest of town. Methane blasts were heard as lava went through vegetation. Lava reached the ocean January 15th, wiping out recreation sites and swimming spots like Warm Springs and Higashi Pond. Now, barriers were built to try to divert the lava flow. 2 were shoved aside and overtopped by the flows. Another barrier that was 15 feet high, 450 yards long, stopped the flow for a couple of hours. But the lava found a way through and destroyed Kapoho School. That barrier actually remained intact for about a month when it was almost buried by the flow that also eventually covered the Kapoho Cemetery. A 4th-mile-long barrier was built to protect homes at Kapoho Beach lots and Coast Guard facilities. The wall worked for a week, but was breached in several spots. 6 homes were destroyed. The lighthouse was spared. By January 27th, most of Kapoho town had been destroyed. Overnight, from January 30th to the 31st, lava shot up more than 1,000 feet. Geologists say hot magma from the summit mixed with cooler magma stored in a reservoir beneath the Kapoho area since 1955 or earlier. Those fountains continued for a couple of weeks. The eruption was done. Flows covered more than 4 square miles, including new land beyond the shoreline that totaled about 3/4 of a mile.
And what year was this again?
1959, 1960.
Okay. You know, I was looking at the history. This current eruption has been going on for 35 years.
Yeah.
But if you look at 1900s, there were 48 different eruptions that occurred.
Wow.
So on average, about every 2 years, it was going off. Sometimes for a few days, sometimes a few months, and as we have experienced, sometimes for 35 years.
And in a lot of different directions, too.
Yeah.
Huge impact. All right. Thanks, Billy. It's 6:27. We're going to be right back. Weather and traffic when we return.
Selected wardrobe for Hawaii News Now anchors provided by Saks Fifth Avenue. Celebrate Nurses and Teachers Appreciation Week in May with our World of Beauty at Saks Fifth Avenue, Waikiki.
in high definition from KGMB and KHNL. This is your source for breaking news in the morning. Hawaii News Now Sunrise.
6:30 right now. The lava activity is quiet for now, but still no sign that the eruption is ending soon. The latest on the Kilauea eruption after 1 week now. The latest fissure sent people running out of Lanipuna Gardens. Hear from one family as they're forced to leave their home. And half of the flammable substance stored at the Puna geothermal plant has now been removed. Eleka Lincoln is live with the latest on efforts to remove the rest of it with a fissure less than a half-mile away. Those stories coming up. Here's Dan Cook.
Yeah, we got the computer model up on the board here. Still got a flow out of the east that's pushing moisture into our windward areas across the state. But by the time the winds get to us, they're so light that they're being overruled by the cooling, the heating. The local land breeze and sea breezes are developing. So it's kind of a hybrid between a trade wind pattern and a no trade wind pattern that's going on right now. I'll put it in motion. You can see that continues through the day to day. And as we get into Friday, I stop it here because we've been talking a lot the last couple of days about the VOG and wondering with the current eruptions and the breakouts and the fissures, will the VOG be worse as it starts to move up the island chain with these light winds? The National Weather Service kind of backed off a little bit from the flow that they were talking about. We're talking about wind flow now. Southeast is what brings it up the island chain, and they're saying it's not going to be quite as strong or as long. So while we will probably have some VOG, it may not be as bad as we had once anticipated. Still, if you got respiratory issues, take the appropriate precautions. Stay in the AC. All of us should drink plenty of fluids to get that particulate out of our bodies. Be prepared, as there will be some VOG, but it may not be as bad as we thought. Trades come back Saturday. They should stay with us at least through the middle of next week. Lacey has stayed with us throughout the morning. She's back with an update on the traffic.
Dan, we're getting slower from the west side. It's about an hour 10 from Waianae to downtown, 45 minutes out of Mililani, 50 minutes from Makakilo. We picked up through Kunia on the H1, but once you get to Waikele, bumper to bumper there, you can see it extending here through the H1, H2 merge. You're going to want to hold off through the zipper lane just through Waikele. You can see on the left-hand side, traffic flow there, very heavy. It picks up through Pearl City. Now, I do want to point out, if you're traveling toward Pearl Harbor this morning, the exit from the H1 freeway, traffic flow has eased there. Even traffic flow on the H1 townbound has picked up near the stadium. However, along Kamehameha Highway, it's bumper to bumper from before Salt Lake Boulevard. You can see your average speed there about 5 miles per hour. So expect heavier traffic once more this morning if you're trying to get into Pearl Harbor. Now, Moanalua Freeway, I would say would be an alternate. However, we are backed up through Halava now. You pick up in speed past the Red Hill off-ramp. Town spots a little slow at the Middle Street merge, quickly picks up before Vineyard. Checking in on your east side ride, so far clear from Hawaii Kai and across the Ko'olau, busy on Pali just after Wau Kanaka. However, Like and the H3 moving steady. That's the latest on your traffic. Let's send it back to Steve.
Lacey, Dan, thank you. 6:33. Today marks 1 week since Kilauea erupted. The activity has paused at times, but experts say there's no end in sight. One more fissure broke out yesterday in the Lanipuna Gardens area, bringing the total number now of vents to 15. Civil Defense says the vents are releasing some gas and steam. The amount of land covered by lava has now grown to nearly 117 acres. No homes were lost yesterday, so the number of destroyed structures remains at 36. But police did evacuate 10 homes on Ala'ili Road, just west of Highway 130 because of steaming cracks. More earthquakes are rattling Puna. There have been 31 since just midnight. That's higher than previous days. The quakes appear to be a bit more powerful than other days as well. Many are at or above a magnitude of 2.8. One of them was a magnitude 3. There have been hundreds of quakes since last week when Kilauea's volcanic activity got underway. The largest was on Friday, as you know, at a magnitude of 6.9. Now, the latest vent to open yesterday sent families fleeing the area. This is video from Lanipuna Gardens resident who had to pack up belongings and leave their home behind. They were ordered to evacuate as sulfur dioxide filled the air.
First we heard the siren, then they personally came to each house and said evacuate, evacuate, evacuate.
The street was alive with emergency vehicles and we were told nobody was being let in. That's it.
Lanipuna Gardens is still off limits today because of dangerous air conditions. The residents of Leilani Estates will be able to check on their homes starting at 7 a.m. Of course, that depends on the weather and the lava activity. Our Milaka Lincoln is on Hawaii Island. There are also concerns about the flammable chemical at Pu'u geothermal. What's going on this morning with that, Milaka?
Aloha, good morning, Steve. You're talking about pentane, and really the concern here for the community was that PGV officials had told them during a Pahoa informational meeting earlier this week that they were storing 60,000 gallons of pentane, a very highly flammable liquid, on the PGV plant site. And of course, they were not able to move it as quickly as they had wanted to, as they explained to the public, because they didn't have the proper trucks for transportation. Now, that all very quickly changed yesterday after Governor David Ige, of course, issued that emergency proclamation, essentially giving the state the authority to take decisive action if necessary to mitigate any threat to Puna geothermal venture or to the public. And what we saw was those eventually pentane gallons start getting moved off the PGV site, and that started to a little bit alleviate the concerns of the area residents, especially those who are right outside the PGV property. But they say there's still so much misinformation, so much lack of information, that is what's creating a lot of their worry, a lot of their concern. And that's why several neighbors who live, again, just outside PGV's property line have decided to voluntarily evacuate.
That's scary. When everybody that you talk to who knows someone who works at PGV says they're not being told anything. Everything seems to be going on under the cover of secrecy, a lack of clarity. Even on PGV's website this morning, there's no update at all. They don't even acknowledge what's going on.
Now, we have confirmed with Hawaii County Civil Defense Agency Administrator Talmadge Magno that 30,000 gallons of pentane have already been moved off the property to Shipment Industrial, which is in Kea'au. Let's talk a little bit about pentane, though, because this is really a source for a lot of folks' fear and concern. I spoke with hazmat sources who tell me that pentane has a chemical composition that is similar in nature to gasoline, meaning that it reacts nearly the same way if ignited. So they were saying that even if PGV didn't manage to remove all of the gallons of pentane that are on property before a potential lava threat, either because of the flow itself igniting it or because of wildfires, they said it would not set off a bomb-like explosion, but rather a huge fireball. They also clarified that of course is dependent on how the pentane is being stored. If it's in containers that have vents that can burn, that of course is less of a threat than if it's in a pressurized container. They also say that all of this threat hazard, Steve, is essentially determined by what they use as a DOT emergency response guide. They say pentane, just like gasoline, does not have a mandatory evacuation or isolation zone. So this is important, Steve, because it basically means that there are other chemicals that are far more hazardous that require a certain area which people must stay outside of. That's not the case for pentane, but officials here have determined that just to be safe, on the cautious side, at least a 1 mile radius. Back to you.
Very interesting. All right, thank you, Mileka. 6:38 right now. The trials for former police chief Louis Kealoha and his wife Catherine are being delayed even more. The first trial for the financial fraud charges is in November. Their second trial, that's going to be in March of 2019. That trial will include police officers accused of framing a Kealoha relative for a crime that he did not commit. The Hawaii House of Representatives has created a group to evaluate its procedures on sexual harassment. The group will assess how the House handles reporting, investigating, and eliminating harassing behavior. Officials with HMSA, the Hawaii Employers Council, and the Hawaii Civil Rights Commission make up that group. The House Chief Clerk will serve as an advisor. It's 6:39. Howard's got our quick biz.
Hey, good morning. In this morning's business, 10 months into the fiscal year, state tax revenues are up 8%. Excise tax receipts are up 5%, beating inflation. The Tourism Authority says 9% of all our visitors last year stayed in timeshares. 9% of all visitors. Average timeshare stay was long, 10 days. Timeshares ran almost 90% full collectively. Hawaiian Telecom posts a winter loss, $6 million in the red. Landline losses offset growth in all of their other businesses. And on Wall Street this morning, the Dow has been up and is currently up more than 230 points. Steve.
9% in timeshares. That sounds like a lot. Is that kind of surprising? Or?
It is showing still growth. Now that high occupancy was actually a little lower than the year before, but the reason was there were more timeshares to fill. Two very large groups of timeshares came onto the market last year.
All right. Thanks, Howard. 6:40 right now. Remember to download the Hawaii News Now app for your smartphone or your tablet. All the information and the latest on the lava, all of it is right there. We'll be back.
Welcome back. If you're just waking up in Hawaii, Kai, it's a light ride to downtown, about 27 minutes. We're clear on both Kalani'inaole Highway and the H1 West. Now, we had a few passing showers across the Ko'olau, not causing any major slowdowns. We're moving steady on all routes. So taking a look at our drive times from Kailua to downtown using Pali, 35 minutes there. From Kaneohe to downtown along Like, 25 minutes. And on the H3, 35 minutes. Now, roads heading into town, a little slow at the Middle Street merge on the H1. Quickly picks up before you get to Vineyard. However, on the H1 freeway, traffic flow is improving near that Pearl Harbor Nimitz off-ramp. So we're moving up to speed as you make your way past the stadium. But check out Moanalua Freeway. That is now backed up through Halava. You start to pick up after the Red Hill off-ramp. Further out to the west side, traffic not looking too bad through Kunia, but remains solid at the H1, H2 merge. That's your traffic. Dan's got your weather.
Hey, good morning, Lacey. If you were watching yesterday at the end of the show, we were talking about the possibility of a tropical cyclone forming in the East Pacific. Now, this is early. The hurricane season doesn't actually start until June 1, but this has potential. Yesterday, they were saying 50%. This morning, they're saying 30% chance that it's going to develop into a tropical cyclone in the next 48 hours. So we'll be watching that. Just a reminder, hurricane season is approaching. You need to be ready. There's the waves down, but still good size on the north side, 6 to 9, even smaller tomorrow, 3 to 6 on the west through Friday. And you can see the trade wind swell is down 1 to 3, 1 to 3 also south side, and both of those should last through Friday. That's your traffic and weather right here on Sunrise.
6:43 and welcome to the Pacific Rim Report with Carl Baker from the Honolulu-based Pacific Forum. So we had some breaking news overnight. The Secretary of State flew home with 3 released American hostages, and President Trump now announces that the Kim-Trump meeting will be in Singapore. What do you think made Singapore get chosen?
Well, Singapore is a good location for both countries, I think. First, it's not too far for Kim Jong-un to make his second trip in the airplane, I guess. And there is a big presence of North Korean at the embassy there. And so they've always had a pretty good infrastructure. So I think they feel that's well supported. And of course, the United States is familiar with Singapore, and it's a good location in Asia.
Since the last time we met, there have been more reports to indicate with maybe greater certainty than we knew before that Kim may have been impelled in this direction by the collapse of his nuclear testing mountain. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about that and wondering whether it made any difference whether he was forced into it or not. It's still, whatever caused it, it's still an opportunity.
It is, and there's a lot of speculation on what the cause is, and some of that causality is being driven by what you want to believe, I think. And so, whatever the reason, it is an opportunity, and I don't think we should mistake that as an opportunity.
There seems to be more negotiating going on that leaves the U.S. out between the North and the South. Is that a bad thing, or do we care if it produces a good result?
Well, there's a lot of moving parts because not only South Korea but also China has now met with Kim Jong-un twice, and so there's a lot of things going on, and it's really difficult to tell exactly what's happening. We know that North Korea is saying that they want a long-term process to denuclearize. The United States is insisting that it has to be soon, and it has to be complete, and it has to be comprehensive.
How is that potentially affected by the recent Iran developments in which President Trump wants to pull out of the deal that led to Iran suspending its nuclear program?
Well, and that's kind of the irony, is there we pulled out because we said it's not comprehensive enough, that it didn't address all the concerns we have with Iran. Now with North Korea, are we going to try to do a big comprehensive deal? That's what it looks like to me. Like that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get a big comprehensive deal. But a big comprehensive deal in Korea is going to involve the United States giving up something. And that's the big question. What is the Trump administration really ready to give up in exchange for denuclearization?
Okay. I hope to see you after the talk. We can speculate some more about this.
That's right.
It's 6:46, and we'll have more Sunrise for you in a moment.
6:48. We continue to look at the history surrounding Kilauea volcano to see if the possibility of similarities and possibly to ask questions about the current eruption. In 1924, the lava flow then, according to the USGS website, the lava lake drained out of Halemaumau, followed by a severe earthquake swarm in Lower Puna. Seismic activity built, culminating in ground cracking, faulting, and hundreds of felt earthquakes as magma transferred from the summit to Lower Puna. As seismicity waned in Lower Puna, the crater floor of Halemaumau began to collapse, deepening to more than 490 feet on May 1st and nearly 690 feet on May 7th, 1924. Halemaumau exploded, with the first explosion taking place on May 9th, and explosive events continued over the next 2.5 weeks. The explosions were so powerful, an 8-ton ballistic block was thrown up more than a mile up in the air from the volcano. Another 8-ton block was thrown more than a half-mile out of the crater. The force was so powerful, when that one landed, it actually created a crater of its own. The largest explosion during this eruption was on May 18th. One person who was near the crater was actually hit and killed by falling debris. But scientists say this blast was actually small in comparison with past explosions at Kilauea throughout history. Staff from Volcano Hideaways talked recently to a ranger closing off the Mauna Loa Road at Highway 11, which is a mile south of Kilauea Military Camp. The staff member asked them why. He said they are preparing in case an evacuation becomes necessary due to the lava lake falling. Staff member said, in case it falls below the water table. Ranger said, got that right. Here's what causes such explosive eruptions. They're mostly powered by steam caused by groundwater seeping into the emptying conduit below the lava lake and contacting the magma chamber below. Most times the steam gets out without an explosion, but in cases where explosions happen, the steam basically has nowhere to go. It then triggers a large blast that sends debris out of the crater. This could even be giant boulders. Now, just to be clear, yesterday's ash plume at Halemaumau was created by a rockfall or crater walls falling. Right now, experts are worried about a larger explosion if the lava level drops and hits the groundwater. Explosions can also be set off by a migration of magma into one of the rift zones. Scientists say Kilauea should be considered an explosive volcano. And by the way, our web team put together a cool feature on what happened back in 1924. You can check it out. It's online right now at hawaiinewsnow.com.
Now, we know that if there is one of these massive explosions, the ash could go as far away as Hilo, right?
They say Hilo or Waiuhinu.
Yeah.
So there is, everybody has precautions, and there are a lot of things that are in place in case that does happen.
But the main threat from these flying gigantic boulders, that would be mostly within the park itself. Right?
We're thinking. That's for the most part, that's the thought process, but you never know with Mother Nature.
True. All right. Thanks, Billy. 6:51 right now. Let's check in with Lacey Denis.
Hey, good morning, Steve. We're tracking the traffic. If you're trying to get to Pearl Harbor, we're hearing from our viewers, it is just bumper to bumper along Kamehameha Highway. JC says it took him 30 minutes to get from the cutoff to the gate. Now, let's take a look at the flow map. Averaging along Kamehameha Highway under 4 miles per hour. So expect that slowdown. Now on the freeway at that Pearl Harbor Nimitz off-ramp, we're actually seeing traffic improve a bit. We've lightened up there. Even on the H1 townbound before the Radford Drive overpass, we're moving up to speed. However, on Moanalua Freeway, that is solid now from Halava. You catch a break after Red Hill, but you may just want to avoid that route and instead stay with the H1 freeway. In town, slow going from the Middle Street merge. Picks up before Vineyard, and if you're traveling out to that Punahou off-ramp, you start to build there once more. Out to the east side, filling in through Kaimuki. No backlog on Kalanianaole Highway. And from the west side, slow going still through the merge. That's your traffic. Dan's got your weather.
6:52. Lacey, thanks. This is a beautiful shot from Mesa Ellison. That's Pu'u sunset. Just gorgeous. The colors, the sun, the crepuscular rays coming through the clouds. Just beautiful. Lacey, thanks for sharing that with us. It will be a pretty nice day today. We've lost our trade winds, and that's the case for today and probably tomorrow. And we will see some hazy skies. However, the National Weather Service is that's Pu'u sunset. Just gorgeous. The colors, the sun, the crepuscular rays. The crepuscular rays coming through the clouds, just beautiful. Lacey, thanks for sharing that with us. It will be a pretty nice day today. We've lost our trade winds, and that's the case for today and probably tomorrow, and we will see some hazy skies. However, the National Weather Service has backed off a little bit from the southeast flow and say, while we will have some volcanic haze, probably not as much as we had anticipated, so we'll squeeze that down a little bit. Afternoon pop-up showers along with some windward moisture today and tomorrow. Then the trades return on Saturday. Stick around until at least the middle of next week. They'll be wet at times, but to leeward sides we'll see plenty of sunshine. 85 the high today, and you can see warmer temperatures for most of the next 7. Quick break now. We'll be back with more Sunrise for your Thursday in a moment.
Welcome back. 6:55. The president told a crowd of military spouses yesterday that his administration gave service members their first pay raise in 10 years. But the Military Times reports that troops have received a pay raise every year for more than 3 decades. However, the 2018 pay raise was the largest in 8 years. Ford says it will temporarily halt production of the F-150 truck due to a fire earlier this month at a supplier's facility. Ford has an 84-day supply of the trucks in its inventory, so customers will not likely be affected. No word on when the damaged facility will reopen. The F-150 is the best-selling vehicle in the country. Congratulations to Rovi Dipanaisa. The Waipahu High School senior is the first student in Hawaii to earn a 2-year college degree through the early college program. Isn't that awesome? Rovi's going to get her associate's degree from Leeward Community College tomorrow. On May 24th, she will receive her high school diploma. She's taking college courses throughout high school. What's more impressive, Rovi didn't even speak English as a young teenager when her family immigrated from the Philippines.
When I heard about early college, I was still shy then, But then I said that, oh, this is an opportunity. I cannot like just let pass through it. So I grabbed that opportunity and then joined early college.
And perhaps they don't even dream about going to college because of the financial barriers. And that's the people we're trying to reach.
Rovi completed the early college program while holding down 2 jobs, raising her young son, and getting straight A's in high school. Dang, good for her. Hey, the Today Show is next on KHNL. Sunrise continues on KGMB. How's it, Art?
Hey, coming up, I'll explain why oil prices are still rising. Dan.
We've got some crepuscular rays. Yeah, the sun coming through the cloudiness. There's also some blue sky here on the leeward side of the cold. Full forecast for you Thursday and the weekend coming up. Hi, Lacey.
Dan, tracking a new problem in Aiea. We've got a multiple vehicle crash heading southbound on the H1 freeway. I've got your details and the best way to work around that congestion coming up next.
In high definition from KGMB, this is your source for breaking news in the morning. Hawaii News Now Sunrise.
Coming up on 7 o'clock at the summit of Kilauea, a rockfall in the Halima'u crater sends a giant ash plume into the air. Details on the growing threat of an explosive eruption.
We're getting the pentane out of there.
With a fissure less than a half a mile away, crews work to remove a flammable substance stored at the Puna geothermal plant. Eleka Lincoln joins us with the very latest. She'll be live. And he's been recording Kilauea's flow since the 1980s. You've seen his video on our air. Now this eruption forced Mick Kalber of Tropical Vision's video from his own home. He joins us a little bit later for an update. Very interesting perspective from him. Right now, let's check in with Dan Cook.
Steve, thanks. Thursday weather looks pretty good. We've got, we've lost the trade winds. We've got light and variable winds going on out there, but we'll see sunshine for some of the day. Still an easterly flow bringing some showers to the Windward and Malka neighborhoods, but they too will see a little sun, we're hoping today. 74 the current temperature. The dew point has climbed above 65. That means it's feeling a little stickier out there. The winds are not helping much at 3 miles per hour. We've got these light and variable winds today and tomorrow. Great for golf. There you can see the afternoon high. It's going to be warm, 85 degrees. So a little wet Windward and Malka. We might see some showers popping up interior and leeward neighborhoods this afternoon. Trade winds should be back this weekend. Lacey's back right now with an update on the
And Dan, an update on this accident. We've got 3 vehicles involved in Aiea, H1 townbound right after the Ka'ahumanu overpass. You can see it in the second lane from the left. And if I flip the camera around, it is solid from the H1, H2 merge. We're looking at just over an hour ride from Wai'anae to downtown. So the best way to work around that congestion for now will be that zipper lane. We're clear from Waikele and all the way through Pearl City and into Aiea. If you can, Moanalua Road, moving steady as well. Kamehameha Highway, just good through Pearl City and Aiea. Not looking good at all as you get closer to Pearl Harbor. In fact, drivers have been tweeting me all morning. For one person, it took them 30 minutes just to get from the cutoff to the gate. And you can see by traffic flow on the right-hand side of Kamehameha Highway, bumper to bumper. So again, for drivers, if you're traveling through Aiea this morning, looks like FSP just got on scene of this multiple vehicle crash, blocking the second lane from the left along the H1 townbound right after the Ka'ahumanu overpass. That's the latest on your traffic. Let's send it back to Steve.
All right, Lacey, Dan, thank you. 7:01 right now. Today marks 1 week since Kilauea erupted. 15 fissures have broken out. And at last report, the lava activity, it's gone quiet, but Civil Defense says the vents are releasing some gas and steam. About 117 acres have been covered so far by lava. 36 structures have been destroyed. Most were homes. Police evacuated 10 homes on Alaili Road, just west of Highway 130, because of steaming cracks. About 2,000 people have been evacuated since the eruption began. Now, there are also concerns about the flammable chemicals stored at Puna Geothermal. Mileka Lincoln is live in Pahoa with the very latest on that. Mileka.
Aloha, good morning, Steve. Yes, those concerns were prompted by the eruption of the 15th fissure yesterday, just south of Poho'iki Road and Leilani Avenue, moving in a direction, according to Hawaii County Civil Defense Agency officials, that's east toward the Puna Geothermal Venture Plant. Now, of course, there's no way of knowing exactly what direction a lava flow will take, how quickly it will move, or if it might divert, but they were out of an abundance of caution, wanting to let the public know exactly what that situation is, given the concerns they are well aware of that folks have because of the 60,000 gallons of pentane that was being stored on property. Now, at this time, 30,000 gallons of that pentane has already been moved, a very highly flammable liquid, and the front itself, we're told, has stopped, at least for now. It is quieted as it edged closer to Poho'iki Road. It has not crossed the road. So at our last measurement, again, from Hawaii News Now, we're estimating that it's about a third of a mile from the closest structure on the Puna Geothermal Venture Plant. Now, the pentane, as we mentioned, has at least gotten about half of it off property, 30,000 gallons, according to Hawaii County Civil Defense Agency Administrator Talmidge Magno, who says that they were able to get the trucks that they needed to safely relocate that very hazardous material off-site to Shipman Industrial Park in Kea'au. He says that they plan to remove the additional 30,000 gallons that are still on site by noon today. Now, pentane itself, when we spoke with hazmat officials, they shared with us it's got a chemical composition that is similar to gasoline, meaning that if exposed to fire, if ignited by fire, it would essentially act the same way. What they say the real concern here is knowing how the pentane is stored. Now, if it is in a container with vents that would allow it to burn, they said even if it were to catch on fire, either as a result of the lava threat or by a wildfire caused by the lava threat, they said it would not create a bomb-like explosion, but rather a massive fireball. And again, they say that all of their information coming from the Department of Transportation's emergency response guide indicates that there's actually no isolation zone needed for pentane, but they've established it should be at least a mile. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Mileka. 7:05 right now, a 29-year-old Pahoa man has been arrested for allegedly stealing from a home that had been evacuated in Leilani Estates. Police say the homeowner was returning to grab some of his items yesterday when he caught the suspect leaving his house with his belongings. Police officers and the National Guard are enforcing the evacuated communities to prevent looters. Authorities say those who commit burglary during a state of emergency can be jailed for up to 20 years. The Hawaii Electric Light Company says at least 50 poles have been damaged in Leilani Estates and Lanipuna Gardens. Compare that to the 285 poles that were damaged by Tropical Storm Iselle back in 2014. Power was knocked out for weeks at that time. Right now, crews are shutting down some circuits threatened by the lava and the shifting ground. About 300 customers remain now without power. Much of Volcanoes National Park will be closed tomorrow due to a threat of a steam explosion. USGS says around 8:30 yesterday morning, a large rock fall at the Halima'u crater created this giant ash column. We're told ash shot up 6,000 feet into the air and some lava fragments were thrown out from the lava lake. Officials predict rock falls and explosions will continue. Also concerning, during a flight yesterday, officials say the lava lake had dropped by 970 feet. If it continues to drop, it could mix with groundwater and lead to much more violent explosions.
As the lava lake lowered, you get rocks falling in from the sides, creating kind of a plug. Water is mixing, you have steam, it's being plugged, the pressure builds, and ultimately the pressure builds great enough that it blasts up through that. So this is our concern if the lava lake continues to drop and goes below water table.
Experts say if we see a major explosion, rocks weighing several tons could be thrown as far as a half-mile from the crater. On Friday, visitors will be able to access the park's Kahuku unit, but officials will continue to monitor the lava lake. If they think that an explosion could happen again, they may shut down the entire park. Today, 10 lawmakers are set to visit Puna. That includes the state Senate president and vice speaker of the House. They say they want to assess the emergency response and see how the legislature can actually help when it comes to recovery and relief efforts. They'll make several stops, including the emergency shelters and checking on the lava in Leilani Estates. 7:07 right now, car dealers lobby Congress members and win. Howard Dykes has your 1-minute economy.
Good morning. The Financial Protection Bureau made car dealers stop charging minorities more for car loans. Car dealers said that limited their ability to discount loans to close sales. Congress this week has repealed the rule. Oil prices are rising in the wake of Trump announcing new Iran sanctions. This morning, benchmark crude is over $71 a barrel. California could be the first state to require solar panels on new homes. Its Energy Commission votes 5-0 to mandate PV on all new houses and many new multifamily units starting in the year 2020. On Wall Street, the Dow is up 240 points. And we have some breaking news. Hawaiian Electric has just reported a $40 million winter profit. Hawaiian Electric stock is trading at $34 a share, plus it's up about 0.75%.
Oh, all right, thanks, Howard. It's 7:08 right now. Well, he's been working hard and he's captured some incredible footage. You've seen it right here on Hawaii News Now. Photographer Mick Calver, he's also been personally affected by the lava. We're going to talk to him about what's going on Hawaii Island coming up next.
You're watching Hawaii News Now Sunrise. And now, weather and traffic every 10 minutes.
Welcome back. We've now got 2 townbound lanes blocked off on the H1 through Aiea for this multiple vehicle crash. This is right after the Ka'ahumanu overpass before Ka'onohi. Now the backlog, we're up to a more than hour, 15-minute ride. We're solid from the H1, H2 merge. If you've got 2 or more in your car, definitely use the zipper lane. That's wide open from Waikele all the way through Pearl City and into Aiea. Now if you don't have 2 or more in your car, Moanalua Road, that's clear. Kamehameha Highway, just a note, only good through Pearl City, Aiea, because once you get toward Pearl Harbor, traffic there barely moving. You're at a crawl approaching the Pearl Harbor gates. So again, for drivers, we've got 2 townbound lanes now blocked off on the H1 freeway right after the Ka'ahumanu overpass. Now traveling into town, it's a bit slow here at the Middle Street merge, but bumper to bumper once you get out to Punahou. Moanalua Freeway slowing through the flats and the viaduct before the Nimitz off-ramp. To the east side, filled in through Kaimuki. However, nothing slow on Kalangi na Ole Highway. Across the Ko'olau, clear along the H3, Like, little busy near Valley View, Pali Highway, near Kamehameha 4 Road. That's your traffic. Let's send it over now to Dan.
Lacey, thanks. 712. You can see it on our traffic cameras. The sun's shining on the town side. Still pretty wet windward and Mocha. The winds are no longer trades, though they're light and variable. The overall flow, and you'll see it as we go to the satellite and radar, still is from the east down at the surface. So showers moving in to the windward and southeast coastlines of the island of Hawaii, for Maui County, for us here as well on Oahu. It's been pretty dry for Kauai so far this morning. There along our windward sides, a lot of moisture. So that's been steady pretty much all night this morning. Well, those who live on the windward side would tell me it's been steady wet for days. Hopefully there'll be a little bit of a break coming here for them and some sunshine. Leeward will definitely have some blue sky today, but quite a bit of moisture just offshore and moving on to the eastern parts of the island of Hawaii. Steve, over to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Dan. Thank you, Lacey. 713, photographer Mick Kalber has been documenting the lava on the Big Island, and he's been doing an incredible job. He's been doing this for decades, though. He's also been evacuated from his own home because of what's going on right now. Mick, first of all, we hope you're okay. How are you? How are you doing this morning?
I'm struggling.
Yeah.
I'm okay. You know, we're safe. That's not a problem. We've moved the past couple of days. We've moved a lot of stuff out of our house. There's still a lot there. I was just talking to my wife this morning about maybe hiring a company to move us out because I just don't have the wherewithal to do it. But I'm trying to document the lava, working on a documentary and trying to move my stuff out of my house at the same time. It's not going to happen. So. Plus, I make 70 this year, so you know I'm no spring chicken.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's unnerving. You know, I did a lot of interviews with people during Kalapana when Kalapana was burning up in 1990, and I remember them telling me that it's kind of a roller coaster ride. You know, 1 minute you're okay, the next minute you're not. And now I'm experiencing that. You know, it's really not knowing what's going to happen is just frustrating. It's just, you know, whether do we go, do we stay, do we take stuff, you know, it's just nuts. But I'll tell you what, that is a volatile situation out there. This is unlike anything I've ever seen. You know, they liken it to Kapoho and the 55 flow, which feature. We had fissure eruptions, and there was fissure here and fissure there, and rather than a curtain of fire, although there was a curtain of fire in Kapoho. But of what I've seen, you know, this is much more violent, much more hit and miss here and there. The scientists that's going on in the park is just crazy. Both lava lakes draining out at the same time. The whole landscape has changed. Everything has changed out there. So you know we're trying to keep up with it along with everybody else, and it's been so sudden. I mean, we all look at each other and say, "Oh my God, this has been 9 days." You know, it feels like 9 weeks. It's just overwhelming, absolutely overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, you've done an incredible job, and we need to say that, and thank you for capturing the images and the emotion and everything that's going on over there. But you know, it's that double-edged sword, right? I mean, you have all this uncertainty for yourself and your personal life, but I mean, this is what you do. You've been doing this since the 80s. I mean, it's also got to be kind of fascinating, I would imagine, for you, right?
Oh no, it's absolutely. But you know, the something that comes to mind, I've been thinking about this the past couple of days, is, you know, live by the sword, die by the sword. I've been intimately involved with the volcano for a long time, and so I've kind of put myself in that position. But you know, I honestly, this sounds ridiculous now, I guess, but I honestly thought that Leilani was one of the safer places to be, because if you look at it topographically, you know, the flows that I've seen in the past and documented have been flows that have started at one place at a vent and rolled down the hill and gone to another place. This is not that kind of flow. And I always said that Leilani, if it's going to erupt in Leilani, it's not going to erupt above and come down because there's a ridge there. But it's going to have to erupt in the subdivision. That's exactly what happened. You know, it erupted in the subdivision. And it's worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And the thing that's really funny, and I don't know if you heard about this, Steve Brantley from the USGS was telling me the other day that they think the lava that erupted in Leilani so far has come from stored lava from the 1955 eruption.
Wow.
That means this stuff's been under the ground. This is not Halima'uma'u lava or Pu'u lava. This is lava that's been stored since 1955.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just not something you can even wrap your head around, you know?
Yeah, the stuff that's coming out, and you know, Howard had said it this morning, and we're learning more and more about it. It's just unbelievable. As far as everyone else, though, what is the mood like? I mean, I obviously everybody has had to get up and move. There's so much that they're still thinking about it. But what is the mood like out there in the Puna area and Leilani Estates?
Well, you know, it's all over the map. I mean,
Yeah.
it's up and down. You know, people are of course praying that it's done now, that it's over. I doubt it. But there's a possibility, and we're just all hoping, you know, that it'll move away from us, and that's what's been happening. You know, it's moving out of the subdivision. Unfortunately, toward the geothermal, which is a whole different subject.
Yeah.
And it's moving. It looks like it's moving up to the southwest as well. And so, you know, it could move away from us. Does that preclude it from erupting in Leilani? No, but maybe it takes the pressure off of us. You know, maybe it'll allow us to keep things to a dull roar in Leilani. But people are, you know, some people have evacuated. There's still people that live there. You know, even though most of them don't have any power, there still is power. We were out of power yesterday. We're in the middle of Leilani, you know, Kapono, right behind the park. So, but that's about the line of demarcation for power. I think below us, or maybe below Nohea, there's no power. It hasn't been for quite some time. We lost power a couple of days ago, and it came back on yesterday. So there still is power out there, and there is a contingent of people that will never leave, or will never leave till the last minute. But some people are, you know, positive about it. Some people are. Somebody showed up yesterday and just started sobbing, and I'm the same way. I've been really emotional about the whole thing. You know, sometimes I'm okay, sometimes I'm not.
Yeah, and understandably so. Nick, we appreciate everything that you've done for us and for the state, really, in capturing what you've done. Just please stay safe, and we wish you well. Thank you, Mick.
Yeah, we're safe, and thank you for your comments. Aloha.
Aloha. 7:19. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
You're watching Hawaii News Now Sunrise.
722, Central Pacific Bank has announced it is donating $40,000 to Kilauea eruption victims and residents devastated by last month's historic floods.
Here, more than anywhere else, in times like this, I feel that people jump in and help.
$20,000 is going to help Big Island residents, the other $20,000 to Kauai and East Oahu flood victims. Hey, it's Keiki Day! Honolulu Mayor Kirk Caldwell is among the hundreds of volunteers selling newspapers across the state for $1. Proceeds from these papers are going to go to the Parents and Children Together, which provides services like early childhood education. UH head football coach Nick Rolovich and other UH coaches are also out selling newspapers this morning as well. So pick up a paper and help the kids. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, good morning, Steve. We've still got multiple lanes blocked off heading townbound on the H1 freeway because of this multiple vehicle crash. It's on the H1 right after the Ka'ahumanu overpass. Those two left lanes blocked off. Looks like FSP moving one of those vehicles. You can see police officers leaving the scene as well. Looks like now only one townbound lane blocked off. So you've got one additional lane open. However, we're solid now from Waikele. It's bumper to bumper through the H1, H2 merge. We're up to about an hour, 15-minute ride from Waianae to downtown. If you did want to use a zipper lane, that is clear all the way through. Let's check on your weather now with Dan.
Hey, as if there hasn't been enough to talk about and worry about when it comes to Mother Nature, it's hurricane season right around the corner. June 1st is the official start, but we've already got a system we're watching. 30% chance that's going to develop into an organized tropical cyclone in the next 48 hours. So we're going to be watching that very closely, and it's a good reminder to get ready. Hurricane season, June 1 through December 1. It's 7:24, and this is Hawaii News Now Sunrise.
7:28 right now. It is a devastating situation on the Big Island for the people who are losing their homes. But the lava is also mesmerizing to watch, and it taps into the wonder of nature and our spiritual side. Here's Billy B.
The poem called There Really Is a Pele by L.R. McBride. Yes, there really is a Pele. Her home is a yawning pit in the top of Kilauea, the most active volcano in the world. She shows herself on the summit of the mountain, young and lovely, dancing in all her glory. She is the essence of beauty, in the geysers of fluid lava gushing from the depths of the earth. She is the ever-changing pattern of pulsing red and incandescent yellow in fiery fountains, squirting high into the blue smoke above a lurid lake. She paints the billowing clouds of night with the glow from rivers of rock. Her eyes flash in the grumbling summer storms. She stirs, and the island trembles in expectation. Pele is real. She is the eruption spirit of Hawaii's volcanoes.
In high definition from KGMB, this is your source for breaking news in the morning. Hawaii News Now Sunrise.
7:31, concerns grow over a flammable substance left at the Puna geothermal plant. Half was removed, but crews still have to come back for the rest of it today. Eleka Lincoln is live with the progress on clearing that plant out. That flammable substance at the plant, it's called pentane. We've been talking a lot about it, but what exactly is it? Howard Dykes will explain. And pro baseball player and Hawaii native Colton Wong is raising money for those affected by the lava. How much he and his team have raised so far. Plus, another Hawaii sports star reaches out for his own family in Leilani Estates. get to all that in just a bit. First, though, here's Lacey Denise.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Let's head straight over to Aiea. We got rid of that multiple vehicle crash on the H1 freeway. It was heading townbound right after the Ka'ahumanu overpass. Traffic flow, however, is still backed up to Waikele. It is solid through the H1, H2 merge. You can see just how packed it is there. We're up to an hour, 15-minute ride from Waianae to downtown. If you've got 2 or more in your car, zipper lane, we checked in all the way through. We're clear there. Or if you can use either Moanalua Road or Kamehameha Highway, both routes looking good. Now, just a reminder, Kamehameha Highway only light through Pearl City and Aiea. Once you get closer to the stadium near Pearl Harbor, traffic is a mess. Earlier this morning, it was actually backing up the Pearl Harbor off-ramp from the H1 East. We're hearing additional security screening in place, so expect heavier traffic to Pearl Harbor. We're improving in town just at the Middle Street merge. It's still packed once you get toward Punahou. East side ride, busy through Kaimuki. Across the Ko'olau, we're light on Likelike and the H3, but on Pali, slowing from Waukanaka. That's your traffic. Let's send things over to Dan.
Well, it's a trade wind weather. It looks like trade wind weather. It's the showers of clouds stacked up against the Ko'olau. The windward side is wet, but we've lost the trades. The trades are gone. There is an overall easterly flow, and that's what's pushing that moisture up against the Ko'olau. But locally, the winds are going to be from every which way. It's going to be the heating and cooling of the land that will determine the wind direction today. So as the day heats up, we'll see some sea breezes develop, maybe some pop-up showers in the interior sections, leeward neighborhoods. It is already warm in Kailua Kona. We've got 74, 76 in Lihue, still in the 60s in Lahaina City. I think they were down to 62 early this morning. With the light winds, a great day for golf, indeed. Thank you, Terry, for this photo. 85 will be our high, so a warm one this afternoon. That could create that lift and the heating that could create some clouds and showers in the interior sections. But windward continues to be a little bit wet. We'll hope to get you some sunshine later today. Steve, back to you.
All right, Dan, Lacey, thank you. 7:34. It's now been 1 week since lava erupted in the middle of a Big Island neighborhood. And so far, 15 fissures have broken out in Leilani Estates. No one has been injured, but 27 homes have been destroyed, and about 2,000 people have been told and forced to evacuate. The latest fissure broke out about a half mile from Puna Geothermal Venture. Governor Ige signed an emergency proclamation giving the state the power to take control of the plant's safety response. He says PGV was not acting fast enough to remove the flammable chemical pentane.
They said they would get on it, and it's still on the site, and that's why I'm taking this action today.
Civil Defense says crews were able to relocate about 30,000 gallons of pentane from the site yesterday. They say the remaining pentane should be removed by this morning. Right now, we are going to check back in with Mileka Lincoln. Residents are upset that PGV has been mostly silent about its response. Is that right, Mileka?
Aloha, good morning, Steve. That is a major concern for residents here. They feel like there hasn't been access to clear, transparent, timely information, not just from PGV officials, but also from Hawaii County Civil Defense Agency officials. As you can imagine, it was rather concerning for them when they heard that there was 60,000 gallons of pentane being stored at the PGV plant. We're talking about a very highly flammable liquid and not a lot of information available about it. So we reached out, did not hear back from PGV officials ourselves, but we did speak with a hazmat source, someone who's been really working around substances that are similar to pentane for quite some time. And what this person shared with us and a few others have confirmed is that the chemical composition of pentane is actually very similar to gasoline. And so if it were to ignite, it would have a similar fire hazard, a similar reaction. They say really what it comes down to is how the pentane is being stored. If it's in a container, a sealed container that allows for venting, then it can just burn off. If it's in a pressurized container, that's of course an entirely different situation. But what they were saying is so long as it's stored in one of these vented, sealed containers, even if it were to ignite as a result of either approaching lava or wildfire threat caused by approaching lava, they say what it would have done done if they were not able to move it off of property in time would have been to create just a massive fireball. Not the kind of bomb-like explosion that so many were worried about, but they just didn't know what to expect because they weren't getting that information from officials. Now, as you mentioned, 30,000 gallons of the pentane already moved off site. We're told the remainder of it will be moved off and relocated to Kea'au at the Shipman Industrial Area by noon today. But there are still a lot of questions and a lot of concerns, of course, about the wells underground and what could happen as this lava activity continues to apparently spread across the lower East Rift zone of Puna. We're also hearing there was quite a bit of seismic activity detected in the area around Puna geothermal venture. We are told that there have been 35 earthquakes in the last 24 hours. Several of them have been over a 2.8 magnitude, and that's something, of course, that officials continue to be concerned about, along with, Steve, those high levels of sulfur dioxide that have been detected in the area that caused the mandatory evacuation right outside of Puna geothermal yesterday. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Mileka. 7:37 right now. Howard joins us now to explain more about pentane and what exactly it is.
Yeah, in the absence of information from Puna geothermal, we've been looking for more generic information, which fortunately is abundant online. The company stores, as you've heard, a lot of pentane on site, which is now being moved in case the lava moves northeast from where it is now. But this is what pentane is chemically. As you might have guessed, like pentagram and pentagon, the name refers to 5. It's 12 hydrogen atoms that are held together by 5 carbon atoms. Pentane is used as a solvent. It's in high-octane fuels. It's a blowing agent in the making of styrofoam. And it's widely used as a working medium in geothermal plants around the world. Geothermal plants, as you know, pump fluids into deep holes so that the heat down there will make steam, which then drives turbines. Pentane vaporizes at a relatively low temperature, less than 100 degrees. Under an open flame, it can quickly oxidize to form carbon dioxide and water. None of that really tells us, though, about what is the degree of risk had this chemical been kept at the scene, and then we had something moving out of the current rift zone line of steam and heat. So that's why, out of an abundance of caution, the state has ordered that stuff moved. But anyway, that's what it looks like if you're in a chemistry class. Steve.
All right. Thanks, Howard. Very cool. 7:39 right now. Super Bowl winner Kamu Grugier-Hill has set up a GoFundMe account for his family in Leilani Estates. The linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles says his family lost their home to the lava and will have to relocate and left most of their belongings behind while doing that evacuating. The couple has 2 children and a 3-week-old baby. Colton Wong's GoFundMe campaign to help lava victims has raised more than $54,000 so far, and the Hilo native is getting help from his team, the St. Louis Cardinals. What they're doing is they're selling special $15 tickets for next week's Sunday's game against the Phillies. $10 from each ticket is going to go towards Wong's relief efforts. A lot of people helping out, and much appreciated. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We're heavy through Kaimuki on the H1 West. We're not seeing any backlog though on Kalanina-Ole Highway. It's about a 40-minute ride from Hawaii Kai to downtown. If you're traveling across to Ko'olau, Pali Highway is very heavy just after Waukanaka. No accidents, stalled vehicles. Roads earlier this morning were a little slick. It's about a 45-minute ride on Pali Highway from Kailua to downtown. However, we are improving on Like Highway from Kaneohe to downtown. That's a 35-minute ride. No slowdowns on the H3 from Kaneohe to downtown. That's a 40-minute commute. Now traveling into town, slow once more here at the Middle Street Merge, and it is bumper to bumper before Punahou. Wanalua Freeway slowing in the flats and the airport viaduct before the Middle Street Tunnel. Now roads out in Aiea are improving slowly. We had an earlier crash near the Ka'ahumanu overpass. That is what caused a backlog nearly to Kunia now. We're up to an hour, 10-hour, 15-minute ride from Waianae to downtown Honolulu. It's going to be tough through the merge, so Central Oahu drivers, be prepared for that slowdown as you get to Pearl City. That's your traffic. Dan's got your weather.
Yeah, let's start with the computer modeling here, and you can see how there's a easterly flow upstream. It really slows down, though, that flow of winds as it gets close, but it's still enough to push moisture to the windward and Mauka areas. Locally, the winds will be light and variable, but there is that push from the east. We'll see some moisture on the windward and Mauka sides, and we'll see some pop-up action in the afternoons here today and tomorrow as we've lost the trade winds. I've stopped it here noon tomorrow because the southeast flow that we've been talking about the last couple of days and the flow of volcanic haze, probably won't be as strong as we had first anticipated. We're still going to have some foggy conditions here today and tomorrow especially, and if you have respiratory issues, you should take appropriate precautions, but it looks like it might not be as bad as we had originally thought. Trades should be back on Saturday. It looks like they're going to stay all the way until the middle of next week. That's your traffic and weather on Sunrise.
All right, it's time for this week's Foodie Fix with Frolic Hawaii, and today we have contributor Grace Rue. Grace Squared!
Grace Squared!
All right, so we're going to talk about the top 5 poke places. We're going to get to that in a second. First up is our third headline for this week, which is the opening of the Whole Foods in Kaka'ako.
Whole Foods. Yes, we have a brand new one coming up. It's on Queen and Kamake'e, and it's the new flagship store for Whole Foods.
It looks beautiful from the outside. Inside, it's going to be pretty spectacular.
Yes, there's so many new different local favorites, such as Lani Kai, Juice Bar, and then also Juicy Brew is having a whole bunch of vegan prepared foods that are going to be available. And there's Latour Cafe, and also there's going to be a bar restaurant that I think will be quite popular.
So I think what you were super excited about is the actual bar of food, right? Bar of smoked meat.
Bar of smoked meat. And of course, good parking. And all I gotta say is there's a mac and cheese bar.
Okay, we're so there, so there. All right, for the number 2 headline this week, we're talking about the opening of Momo-san at the Alohilani Resort Hotel, which is Morimoto.
Yes, so this is his second restaurant in that area. It's literally downstairs from his other restaurant, Morimoto Asia Waikiki. It's going to be serving up noodles, but it has more than just ramen. It also has izakaya dining options and some appetizers, and also there's going to be a beer garden. There is a beer garden that serves sake as well.
So this is nice in that it's a more casual atmosphere, a little different from his Morimoto restaurant from before at the Modern.
Yes, exactly. Both Morimoto Asia Waikiki and Momo-san are both way more casual, so it's just there to grab and go.
All right, so the number 1 headline this week are the top 5 poke places to go to, which is what Frolic Hawaii is posting. And today we're at Maguro Brothers, which is in the heart of Chinatown.
Yes, it's located in Kekaulike Mall. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to find, but it can be found. It's in the back of...
It's worth it.
Yes. And so, well, you know, from time to time, Frolickers will go and search out their favorite foods. So this week, Grant Shindo put out his favorite food, which is poke. So we're excited to share. And on his list is Maguro Brothers. And their favorite poke is, well, one of his favorite pokes is this ume shiso poke. And that's the more non-traditional one.
Right. Still beautiful, though. I like how it's very simply dressed. And then they have the more Hawaiian one.
Yes, the more traditional, the ahi Hawaiian style, which has limu and some chili and Hawaiian salt, obviously, and onions, and it's the more traditional style.
What's so cool about this place is that it feels fresh because you know where they got it from, right? Where is that?
Okay, so they get their fish every day from the fish auction, so it's fresh daily, and so you know you're getting the best stuff.
All right, so check out the rest of Grant's favorite poke spots on Frolic Hawaii today. Thanks, Grace, for being here.
Thank you.
All right, those are your foodie headlines for the week. You're watching Sunrise on Hawaii News Now.
$7:49 right now. The conference in Hilo is not going to be delayed by the eruption. Howard's got our biz.
Good morning. The Hawaii Association of Professional Nurses says its conference, the weekend after next in Hilo, is still on. Attendees will stay at the Naniloa Resort. The conference will be Friday and Saturday of next week. A state report says 9% of our visitors last year stayed in timeshares. And despite the new timeshares on the market during that year, they ran almost 90% full. Honolulu-based Trinity Investments, along with Oak Tree Capital, has bought the Hilton Hotel at Cabo. Price tag face down. Hawaiian Telcom posts a winter loss of $6 million. Landline losses offset growth in every other division they have. Less than an hour ago, Hawaiian Electric posted a $40 million profit for the winter. That was up from last year, despite passing tax savings on to customers. And on Wall Street this morning, the Dow has been up most of the trading session, and right now, although not as much as before, the Dow is still up 170.
All right. Thank you, Howard. 7:50 right now, the Department of Defense will have to make its role in ballistic missile alert procedures clearer under a massive defense policy bill in Washington. Congresswoman Colleen Hanabusa says that she wants the DoD to hold a briefing on its plans after Hawaii's missile alert mistake. Hanabusa sits on the House Armed Services Committee. The bill also provides millions for projects at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, Fort Shafter, and Marine Corps Base Hawaii in Kaneohe. It now moves to the full House for consideration. Repairs to Hokulea are expected to finish by tomorrow. The voyaging canoe returned to Oahu last Wednesday after it ran aground off the Big Island, damaging its hulls. But when the repairs are done, Hokulea and her crew will leave Sand Island for Maunalua Bay. It will also participate in the Maunalua Heritage Festival this weekend, depending on the weather.
From the KHON2 News, this is a special report.
Good afternoon, I'm Marissa Yamane. Another media briefing from Hawaii County Civil Defense is about to get underway about the lava emergency. Now, while we wait for that, we do want to bullet point the latest information. Now, keep in mind things are very fluid and changing hour by hour, but here's the very latest that we know so far. Still 15 fissures in and around Leilani Estates as well as Lani Puna Gardens. The lava eruption out of those fissures has once again taken a break, but a lot of that volcanic gas is still coming out of those fissures, as you can see here from this aerial video from the National Guard. The lava has covered more than 116 acres so far. The amount of structures destroyed still stands at 36. Now, in addition to Leilani Estates and Lani Puna Gardens, yesterday officials also evacuated homes on Ala Ili Road. Those are to the southwest of Leilani Estates. That's right across of Highway 130. And that's because of fears of a possible new fissure could cut off that road, the only road in and out of that community. Meanwhile, over at Halima'uma'u Crater, the lookout from Jagger Museum, very busy today since Hawaii Volcanoes National Park will be closed starting tomorrow until further notice. The lava lake, it's dropping. That level is dropping. Officials expect it to drop below the water table in the coming days. When that happens, there could be these steam explosions hurling debris and small rocks. So as a precaution, officials are closing most of the park, majority of the park, including that overlook you see right there. That's to keep everyone safe. Howard Dashevsky's been at the park all day. We will hear from him in just a bit. Also want to mention Puna Geothermal Venture. We heard the governor say that it's urgent that they remove all the pentane gas off-site, and they did that as of 3:15 this morning. We do want to go to Manolo Morales right now. He's standing outside of the Emergency Operations Center where the media briefing is about to get underway. Manolo.
Yeah, Marissa, thank you very much. Yeah, that's right. In fact, the 3 o'clock briefing is about to get underway. The Hawaii County Civil